Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My name is Clayton Craddock, and my guest today is Steve Bartosik. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Clayton. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Nice to see you.
Good.
I did some research on you, and I found your name, address, phone number, social security number, and your entire
Fantastic.
family on the internet. I'm just kidding.
Great. Make good use of it.
But I did find an article that intrigued me. You remain close to Lehigh.
Hmm.
You graduated from Lehigh University in 1977, and you started
I was 6 when I graduated.
That's how brilliant you are. That's why I got you on this podcast. You were a history major. You knew what you wanted to study when you were in elementary school. Went from elementary to Lehigh.
Skip the rest.
So the is it alumni band? Tell me about that. It's fascinating.
It began, first of all, going back. I had no idea what I wanted to do, when I grew up, and still don't. But I I went. Lehigh. I graduated as a history major from Lehigh. Let's start
That's
with that.
fascinating.
That was the only thing I could pass and play in all the bands, and
Mm.
that's not a lie. I went in as a, I don't know, geology major. I don't know, literally rocks in my head. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but Lehigh had a lot of um, music opportunities. It had no music major at the time, but I played my freshman year. I had rehearsal with something 7 days a week, and literally twice on Sunday. There were two jazz bands, percussion ensemble, wind ensemble, concert band, marching band in the fall, and I did musicals over there. Um, Big fish, small pond, whatever. I could read, and so I ended up playing a lot. And I obviously didn't care as much about my book education as the other people did, so I played all the time. Anyway, fast forward, not too long, shortly after I graduated, um, I got called from the Alumni Association about forming an alumni jazz band to play at the reunions that they have every year. Lehigh is a huge rah-rah school, lots of donors, all that. Uh, we will backtrack one other second. When I went there, my parents paid a grand total of $20,000 for my 4 years at Lehigh.
Wow.
That won't get you books, like for the first semester at this point.
Exactly.
But yeah, but at any rate, so because they had tried bringing in outside bands and this and that and whatnot. So I said, sure, let me call around, and I called one friend of mine, and he said, I think it's a good idea. So I said, sure, we'll do it. And I found people that I mean, I knew a lot of people from the area, and people that had played in the jazz band or whatever. Formed this band. We thought it was going to be maybe 5 years, and then they'd wake up and say, that was a good idea at the time. And 43 years later, or whatever it is, we're still doing it. We play what started out as about 6 songs, just in between an award ceremony, has gone on to be about 3 hours of entertainment. Sometimes they're dancing, sometimes they're not. The format's changed a lot over the years, but we are still there every Friday night of reunion. And then that same year, or the next year, I believe it was, they asked about a marching band too. So the marching band is huge at Lehigh. It's called the Marching 97. It is all musicians. It is 12 ranks of 8 and 1 drum major. No flags, no guns, no nothing else. That's all it is, just music. And so we do that too. And there's a Saturday parade. And so that plays all the fight songs and the marches. The Friday night band rehearses. We used to rehearse three times. Now we rehearse that day, but we rehearse, and all those people still play their instruments in some shape or form. A lot of them still in big bands or local bands down there. And the Saturday marching band just drinks a lot of beer and fight songs.
Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I did, outside of Allentown. I say Allentown because where I grew up was called Zionsville, about 12 miles south of that, about 500 people, if you counted the cows. No sidewalks, no, everybody had wells and sewers. septic tanks, no public water, no public this, no public that. Sticks, boonies outside.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
So what got you into drumming?
My father played a little bit with a local fire company. Played just enough, like your basic to keep the firemen in step in like the Memorial Day parades, that kind of thing. And then my brother, I have an older brother, 7 years older, and he started to play a little bit. So I'm the pipsqueak, and I want to do what everybody else is doing. So I said, let me do this too, and so kind of stuck. And I took private lessons. Then no Walkmans, no Game Boys, no games. Pong hadn't even been invented yet, for God's sakes. And so all the kids in band took private lessons, and I took private lessons. I think it cost like $4 for a half an hour. It was pretty darn expensive to. At any rate, I had a great teacher, and he taught me how to read, which was his rudiments in reading. All through high school, I never even played on a drum set in private lessons. It was all a pad. It was your feet on the floor, and it was 2 pads if we did Chapin's Coordinated Independence, But it was all the good books. It was Stick Control and like I said, Coordinated Independence, Rudimental Swing, Wilcoxon stuff. I mean, it was a lot of that.
Was it? But, was it one of those wooden pads with the rubber on the top and then tilted to the?
You got it. Hard as a table. Real feel wasn't invented yet. They didn't know anything about that.
That was the real feel. You had to, come from hard times, and
exactly
drums were like made of steel back then. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. The sonars weighed a ton. I remember that. But yeah, and so anyway, that got me into. And then in the valley, Lehigh Valley, that is, there was a lot of community theater, and so I just did a whole. I mean, I could literally play since I could read, and I'm sorry, I got to backtrack this a little bit too. My high school band director was a huge influence, and he was big in jazz band, and he was big in musicals. And so we got to the jazz band part where he would make us memorize the music. So when that curtain went up, everybody's standing, well, except the drums, and nobody had music. And we would just blow them away at these festivals. And we're playing, we play 3 songs all year, but it was, Buddy Rich tune and a maybe a Maynard tune, something like that. At any rate, but so he got me into playing musicals, and then in the Valley, like I said, they had community theater everywhere. So I was probably playing every weekend, doing a show for somebody. And I don't know, one thing led to the next, and here we are now, collecting my pension.
Were there like famous drummers that you were listening to at the time and listening, idolizing? Everybody, the big bands, it was all, Buddy Rich at that point, Louis Belson. It was all that kind of thing. The brass players, anything Maynard did was, he was their god. Bill Chase, when he came on the scene, I don't know if you know Bill, oh my God, they had this band, God rest their souls, they all died in a plane crash. A lot like Leonard Skinner. They had just put out the second album, I think, and it was just a killer. It was like all the trumpets and everybody playing higher than the next guy, and it was you know what, I haven't tried looking it up, but I'm sure there is. I have their albums, but so it was that kind of thing. That's what I like playing. I like listening to Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Mountain and those kind of things. Ian Pace, I love the way he played, man. Left-handed. Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. You look on his things. He was a lefty, but unless the photo is reversed. But I know like on their Made in Japan album, everything's backwards. But what was I doing in high school? I was playing in a polka band.
Really? Wow.
Backwoods of Pennsylvania. We, I got in this band when I was in 10th grade, and they played these summer polka festivals in all over the place. I got lederhosen sitting in my closet somewhere. It's around my arm now, not my thighs, but yeah, and here's the thing, back when in the dark ages, the minimum wage was, I don't know, maybe $1.75 an hour, and we were earning $10 an hour playing polkas. So
wow.
I chose polkas over McDonald's.
That was much better than,
Yeah.
Even today. If somebody's gonna make $10 an hour just playing at a young age, it's pretty good.
You know what? Yeah, seriously. But I don't know. Pennsylvania, I was too stupid. I had never seen a Broadway. I didn't see a Broadway show till, God, I was out of college. I didn't even know what professional, what real people did, or what real, I should say, what real musicians did and what real actors and singers did. I didn't know anything about that till I was in my mid-20s.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm a big history fan now. I love studying history and learning where things came from. Mm-hmm. Were you into history before you went to Lehigh?
Yes, before, yeah, I should say that, yeah. And I like reading, and I was reading all the time. So American history mostly, not, Ulysses or anything of that sort. I didn't want to go way back to the Middle Ages. But yeah, absolutely. And, I'm still Smithsonian Channel and the History Channel, man. I'm all over those on TV.
Yeah, those are great.
Oh,
when you graduated, did you plan to move to New York City? Was that on your radar?
Not even in the slightest. I said I hadn't never even seen a show yet. I didn't know anything about Broadway. I don't even know if I had been to New York City. Come to think of it.
So did you plan on being a professional musician after college?
No, it kind of snuck up on me. After school, I thought I was going to be a band director. So after I graduated from Lehigh, I went to what was then Trenton State College. It's now the college in New Jersey. And I was going to be a band director because my old high school band director convinced me to take over the marching band at the high school. He hated he loved the musicals and the concert band and the jazz band, and he hated the marching band. So he turned it into a club. He turned it into an after-school activity. So I didn't have to be a teacher to run it. I was hired as a coach, essentially.
Wow.
So I did the marching band for a few years after school, while playing and doing, other little things. Listen, my rent was $140 a month. All right.
Wow.
I'm so, but anyway, so I was going to be I went back to Trenton State for a music degree, and there was the drum teacher there was a guy named Tony DiNicola. He has passed on as well, but he played with the I can't think of, you look him up, I can't think of the bands that he played with, but he was a pretty well-known jazz guy at the time, and then went into teaching. It was a combination. We would talk, he would have lessons, and we'd talk more than actually play lessons. And so, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then it was in the middle of clarinet methods. And I'm sitting there and I'm squawking on this clarinet, barely getting through scales, because to be a band director, you got to learn how to play all the instruments. So I'm just, making this thing treacherous. Horrible sounds are coming out of this. and I'm talking with Tony, and he says, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Get out and play." He goes, "You don't want to do this. Your heart's not in this." He goes, "Go out and start doing, and playing all you can, and just don't turn, just go." And he start playing anything and everything you possibly can. And so I did, and I did it from down there. And in Allentown, there was one at the time, an equity theater way down in the ranks of, it held 200 people. And, the equity contract was, I don't know, they used to have, I don't know what their tiers are anymore, but it was pretty low in the equity contract as well. But I auditioned. For some reason, they needed a drummer. They brought it was a quartet. They brought 3 musicians from New York City, bass, piano, and guitar, and they hired a local drummer. That didn't make any sense to me, but I was young and stupid. And anyway, I got the gig, and the conductor said, "Do you want to do more of this?" And that was the first time I had ever heard like professional voices too, like, you know, actors who had actually trained singing and that kind of thing. And it was like, whoa, the step up was ridiculous. And I said, sure. So he started passing my name around, and I went and did a couple of summer stock tours while I was living down there. And I did a couple of little more things at that theater, and one thing led to the next. And so I didn't think about moving. It was 4 years. I moved in 81. I moved into the city. I graduated in 77. It was 4 years later that I finally moved in.
So why not LA or Nashville? You just were closer to New York?
Oh, and hey, I didn't know what New York City was. Oh, no. New York City is way closer. I didn't know anything about it. LA.
So did you move to New York to be a professional musician? Because, you know, you could move to Philly or to DC.
Yeah, I did. Well, that was another young and stupid. I went straight to New York. It was like, I don't know why. And my rent tripled. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm paying $400 a month.
Yeah.
But, in a four floor walk up, carrying my drums up and down, you know, the steps. But so I went in, and I got very lucky because 6 months later, this guy who I did my first show with in Allentown, who asked me if I wanted to do more of this, he called me. He needed a replacement drummer on a national tour of Evita, and he was conducting that, and they had to let go of the drummer and wanted to know if I wanted to come on. So I moved in September of 81, and March of 82, I was out on the road and out of my apartment. And that was the last I lived in the city.
Really?
I literally lived in the city for 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. So you went on tour and you never came back to New York City to actually live?
Correct. I lived right across the river in West New York, New Jersey.
Okay.
But I never actually moved back into the city. I've been living out here in New Jersey in various places ever since.
So what was that experience like, playing a Broadway show, doing the same thing every night on tour?
Whoa. Well, I loved it. Let's start there. But you know, we're talking the early mid 80s here, so it was a little different. It was fun. I love traveling, and I really love traveling on somebody else's nickel. And this was at the beginning, I mean, this was a national tour. We sat in Detroit for 3 months. We sat in Miami for a month. We sat in New Orleans for a month, which was the downfall of my liver without question. And then Dallas and other places. Then we got on a bus and went like a week at a time places. But it was our bus, and we never. It was an equity, full-blown equity national tour. So it was no overnight trips after the show. It was hotels every night. There were limits on how far you could drive and do a show and that kind of thing. So it really wasn't bad. And I also met my now future wife in that show. And I had a great travel partner for the whole, for all of that. So I loved it. I thought it was great.
When you came back, did you want to do more of that, more touring, or did you want to actually try to get a job as a drummer on a Broadway show?
Either. My first, I wanted to work. I'm trying to think. My first actual Broadway thing, I was a sub on the original Ragtime. So that was years later. That was in, let's see, that first tour for me was 82. So that Broadway thing wasn't until like my first Broadway thing was like 98. I think that's when the original Ragtime was there. So it was a long time before I actually stepped foot on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
I did a lot of tours. Good tour.
Tours of musicals?
Evita, Dreamgirls, Annie Get Your Gun, Damn Yankees. I'm missing something. Well, I did 2 tours of Peter Pan. Yeah, I did a lot. And each one lasted. Every one of those tours lasted way longer than any one of my Broadway shows. I could probably combine all my Broadway shows and not be as long as one of my tours.
You know, it's interesting. Interesting you say that, because, you know, the shows generally don't last very long. Would you recommend to someone that wants to play in shows as a drummer to do tours first, as opposed to just come here and try to sub and try to get your own show?
Clayton, you know, now and then are day and night. So it's really hard to say what's right. I don't know what kind of tours are going out anymore. You know, I don't think there is as many big tours. I shouldn't say that. I really don't know what's out there in the way of tours anymore. It worked for me, you know, but God, if you don't have to live out, if you don't have to travel, if you don't like to travel, don't do a tour. If you can't get along with people in a close situation, you know, on and on and on, don't take a tour. And there are different types. The tours that I really liked were the ones where we got a new band like every city. I love those because you were always busy. And of course, by this time, I'd already seen a lot of these, you know, seen a lot of the cities that we had gone to in second and third, fourth, fifth time. So I loved traveling on the day off, orchestra rehearsal, first thing in the morning, sound check, do the show, boom, 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 boom. You know, I like doing that. Sunday, pack it up, start all over again. And I also started traveling with the crew. Like the cast would travel on you know, or later in the day on Monday, I managed to work my way of traveling with the crew. Like if their flights were usually, you know, the first things off the ground on Monday morning. I wanted to do that, get in the next town, unpack, relax there, so that I was ready for my, you know, setting it all up by 9 o'clock the next morning. I mean, when you're doing a show, you got to get used to, you got to want to play the same thing every night. You know, first of all, with the show, that's just the deal. You're going to play the same thing every night. Then with the touring, like you said, you got to be used to, you're going to see the same people. You know, and you're going to see those same people pretty much all the time, you know, either on the bus, on the plane, maybe in the hotel for breakfast or whatever it is. You know, you're going to see them, or you know, I mean, when my wife wasn't with me too, you know, we did a couple of shows together. We were fortunate to do that. But you know, when she was in there, I wasn't a roommate kind of person. I liked my own room, and then, you know, I could get up and do whatever I want at my own space and my own time. And I would always get out and always walk somewhere. Just go check it out. And because there's, you know, like you said, the history of the place, or just the city. Who knows when you're going to come back? Who knows when you're going to go up the arch again, or whatever it is, or whatever it may be. Who knows when you're going to be on Beale Street again, for God's sakes. And fortunately, the shows I was out with, I liked the shows. You know, I wasn't doing, I don't even want to bring up another show, but I was doing a show I liked to play, you know. So either the shows were interesting and that kind of thing. You know, the conductors made it fun. It was never, well, for the most part. You're always going to have somebody in there that drives you nuts. But for the most part, you know, it was a good group that went. The funny thing is when we were a self-contained unit, that's when, I mean, there was a lot of issues, but that's when I did that twice. And that's when it was a little more of a conflict thing. You know, people got a little tired of each other. You know, it's that old joke. You know, Cats has been out on tour so long, the musicians are talking to each other again. But I got great. I mean, the one thing that it also did, some absolutely tremendous stories from being out there of different things that happen in local bands or non-local, you know, whatever. It only makes sense to people sitting around, musicians sitting around talking. It doesn't make any, you know, somebody said, oh, you should put these in a book. No, nobody's going to buy it. This is stuff you talk about when you're sitting at the bar. You're going, oh man, you know, I was in this da-da-da, and this guy did this, and you wouldn't have believed what happened here. Anyway, yeah. But, you know, I'm also talking a little more mundane, but some things that you just go scratching your head. Just a brief, for instance, we're setting up, I believe it was Cleveland. Actually, I know it was Cleveland, but it was years ago. And so I'm usually there early getting my stuff set up. And I see the percussion equipment coming in. And now we're doing Peter Pan. Now, I don't know if you know that, but Peter Pan, actually, the percussion book's very difficult. It's a lot of cartoon music. It's a lot of stuff. There's xylophone lines that are doubling the violin lines, you know, and they're just, you know, they're causing fire on the thing. I mean, it's just very busy. Timpani hits that are bigger than the next and booms, and it's just cartoon. And so I'm watching the percussion equipment being brought in by a person with his arm in a sling. I go, okay, you know, and I just watch, and eventually curiosity gets to me, and I said, are you helping out the guy, or are you the guy? And he goes, oh no, I'm playing the show. And I said, won't that guy, I point to it, I said, won't that get in the way? And he goes, I heard it was a light book. I thought I could play it with one hand.
Oh no. So what happened?
I said, I know this conductor, and he's going to want it a certain way, you know, and if you're either going to do it or you're not going to play it. That's going to be it. So at that point in time, his arm wasn't broken. It was in the recovery stage, and he could actually take it out. But man, he's over there, you know, chewing Advil like, you know, like
Skittles.
Tic Tacs, yeah, Skittles. That's it. and you know, crying, but you know, the worst part was, I shouldn't say this, the saddest part was he wasn't the worst guy. You know, he wasn't the worst of the worst, you know, of the various people that we had played the book along the way. So anyway,
Skittles the percussionist.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh man. So you did a bunch of tours.
Yeah.
And your first show on Broadway was Peter Pan, or Patty the Poem?
Oh, I should say that. Wait a minute. I should say that. Yes, my very first Broadway show was Peter Pan. I mean, it was the tour. We weren't coming in, but we sat there for 6-8 weeks over Christmas. We did Thanksgiving through Christmas. So that was the first one. And it did that 4 different times. we came in. The same tour played 90 and 91, Christmas of 90, Christmas of 91, a year later. And then the same thing 10 years after that, 98, 99, something of that sort. So then the first Broadway show that I ever subbed, that wasn't a tour, was Ragtime. And I can't think of my first one. This is sad. I can't think of my first Broadway show that was like a standalone show, you know, where I got hired just to do the show.
The Sweet Smell of Success?
You think that was it? I'm not sure. What? No.
2002?
No, there was a La Mancha before that. There was a La Mancha in 92.
Wow.
Yeah. I did 2 La Manchas. And the first one, I think, was somewhere around 92. Yes, that was it. That was kind of wild.
And what was wild about that?
That was, well, when they did La Mancha, this was like the first revival, like in a long time, or maybe forever. I don't know. Now, when they did it originally, 16-piece band, and they were split across the stage, but it was a very small theater. So they had 8 people, I guess, on one side of the stage and 8 on the other side, but no monitors. No, I mean, again, long time ago. I didn't do this one, but that's what I was told. So in the revival, Mitch Lee passed on as well, but he wanted to essentially recreate the same thing. Couple of problems getting in the way. We're now at the Marriott Marquis, which is zip codes to the opposite sides of the stage. And we also had minimums to, the minimum at the time was like 24. So they just added musicians to create that. They split the percussion book into 4. I mean, it was made, I think it's made for 3. They split it so there would be no doubles. Split one of the books. But I was on one side of the stage underneath the conductor with the bass player, and the other 3 guys were across the pond over there. The trombones were on this side of this pit. The trumpets were, and French horns were on that side. No audio monitors. And they didn't have the whole thing was, their theory was, you watch the conductor, and when he brought his stick down, if you played, everybody will be fine. Now, I'm right under the conductor, so I have no problem. But I don't know what you couldn't listen to them because it came back to you at a different time. It was just the weirdest thing. We didn't run very long anyway.
There was no conductor cam back then.
They did not have one over there. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Yeah, there was very little, and I think at that time it cost money, and nobody wanted to. This was going to be we're going to spend no money thing. But I do have I have a great story from this. The conductor, I'll leave him out. He's not working in New York anymore, but and this was 92, so he wasn't a terrific conductor, and he was funny because the only time he ever got thirsty in the pit was during the most difficult number to conduct. But I believe he had to show us that he could take a drink from his juice box and conduct 10/8 at the same time. It was just a thing. I'm not making this up. and so anyway, and again, I said there's no way. So one time we're in this said 10/8 number, and it's a big number, and all of a sudden his stick goes in the air and it really starts to move. So I'm looking over at the bass player, and we kind of both, do a little shrug, and we go faster. And he unleashes this chain of obscenities down at us. Okay. So after the show, I said, listen, I'd like to go over, what happened there. And honest to God, Clayton, I wrote this down so I would never forget it. He looks at me and he points and he goes, look, basically what I do up there does not pertain to you. Well, like I said, we didn't run very long. Damn. So, yeah, we opened in March and closed by June or July. I don't know.
Ouch.
We had a lot of those. I had a lot of shows that then were totally under 6 months, but it's all right. Got to play a lot of shows.
So
as a drummer, you usually get to do a lot of rehearsals. So you get a lot more out of it, which is.
Yes. We'll talk about your rehearsal experience in a minute, but you did it again in 2002. Man of La Mancha, that is. Much
better production.
And did it run very?
Mitchell, Bob Billig was conducting that. We were in a real pit. It was, but that was also the strike year. So, we had that to deal with, but yeah, that was a good production. That was a fun one.
And you had a conductor cam and monitors at that.
Well, we were all in the pit, so we actually didn't need them.
Okay.
But we didn't have monitors, but it really, it's a different kind of show. It's not really a drum set show. It's a big snare drum show. It's all a lot of ostinato stuff on the snare drum. And matter of fact, I didn't need a hi-hat. I needed a snare, 2 toms, and a bass and a kick. I had the hi-hat there because my left foot was so used to being on one. So I just had it there. I had it totally closed, never played it. but just so that I was comfortable to sit there with it. But it's a totally different book. It's great. It's a totally different thing.
Was it a combination percussion and drum book?
No, then there was a separate timpani player, and then a mallet player who played I guess he played vibes. I think vibes, xylophone, or a mallet or two, and some handheld stuff.
So when you had that show, what were you looking for when you were hiring subs, or did you take off much of that show?
I did not. I like playing, and like I said, my track, they weren't running long, so I wasn't taking off too much time. Somewhat, was I looking for anything? I was looking for somebody who maybe had played it before, because it was a different show, different type of show. And I can't remember who subbed for me, to be honest with you. In the 2002 one, I can't remember exactly who did. But
how long did it run?
Oh, actually, you know what? I think Joe did. I know Joe Mowat sat for. I know he came and played for the mallet player, and I think he played for me too. Started in December, closed by. I think it made it 9 months. We had a softball team, so I know we started. So we made it into March, April, sometime that time. We might have made it to August. Our producer was also trying to put up this other little show of his called Wicked, and we ended up closing so he could use a lot of our stuff. a lot of the stuff that he paid for, set wise or like crew wise things, so that he could use on that little show over there.
Fascinating. The longer you stay in this business, the more you learn about the business and why things open, why things close, and why they last long and why they don't.
We had Brian Stokes Mitchell. He was phenomenal. He was so good up there. You never got tired of hearing him sing. It was the same thing every night. It was just phenomenal. Great stuff.
So speaking of phenomenal, All Shook Up.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Tell me about that.
Got a lot of time out of that because we did we did a regional run. That was like 5 years worth of, or I was involved in that over a span of like 5 years. Because first we did a bunch of readings. We did, some presentations with just a rhythm section, and lots of incarnations of that. I did different songs, but all of that Elvis stuff was like, that's right in my wheelhouse. I just love playing all of that. And so we did some out of town things. When it finally got for real, well, we did a run up at Goodspeed in the smaller theater up there. Then eventually we took it out to Chicago and did it out there. And it's funny because we were in Chicago at the same time the Spamalot was out in Chicago. So I'm seeing our friend Sean McDaniel a lot because that was his like first big gig. And so we did a lot of hanging in each other's pits and things. It was fun. And but then we came in. It was so much fun to play that music. And man, we had a Hammond B3 in the pit. It's like, oh man, the sound of that is just so great to play with.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. So I don't know, it was a lot of fun music. Unfortunately, it was a little mismanaged. It probably could have run better had things gone a little differently in the hierarchy upstairs. But they were having big money problems by the end. I think our marquee came down before our show closed. It was a little ugly. But we had a great softball team that summer. So that made it all worthwhile. But no, it was a lot of fun, and it was great. It was great playing the music. That was a lot. These are the things when the band's having a great time, band's having fun. they're playing the music, everybody's getting along. Well, you know that show's not going to last long. You know you're in trouble when everything is so smooth in the pit. You know something's not gonna. It just seems to be more the case than not. You know.
Well, that's exactly what happened with Ain't Too Proud, man. We still to this day have a text chain that goes on, and we still contact each other. You know, the show closed in January of 2022, but we're still like connected to each other, and yeah, we all got along, and we had a great time. We laughing and joking, and the show didn't last very long. But that's a whole other story. But
we'll have to talk sometime off air.
Yes, we will.
Because you probably did the dance rehearsals and all for that, right?
Yes.
With our buddy Sergio.
Yes.
I worked a lot with Sergio.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The tour of all. Well, he came in at the end of. We met during It All Shook Up. He came in right before the Broadway version and had to redo our whatever. He came in there, and then we did some other things. Again,
you know what? Yeah, you know what? Really quickly,
yeah,
because that's one thing I've never talked about on this podcast is the relationship the drummer has with the choreographer, and working with different choreographers and trying to understand what they mean and what they want. What did you ever have any kind of, I shouldn't say trouble, but when did you? I guess I should just ask you: did you finally figure out how to interpret what someone like Sergio would ask? You know, can you give me this here or a boom there? Or did you figure out how to interpret what they wanted and
what they were saying
and translate that into drum a language that they can understand through your drums?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve with every single one. And I like that too. I find that I don't know. I find it fun, especially when you figure them out, and and when you get on the same page. And sometimes, yeah, I'm not telling you anything new. I'm not telling anybody anything here. Sometimes it happens fast or faster than others, and sometimes it's, boy, you're still not quite sure, what they're after. But yeah, and you gotta keep your mind open. You gotta listen. You gotta listen with your eyes a lot of times, to what they're saying and actually seeing what they're doing. You have to play with your head up for sure. And that's the hard part. A lot of times is, especially if you don't know the music or you're just getting the music, trying to stay with that. And I heard one of your other guys talking about this. I can't remember who, but, trying to make a blend of what they want and what fits with the music. And sometimes it will, sometimes it'll, fit very nicely. And other times it's, you got kicks that are out of the blue that don't fit with anything, but they're right. I mean, and again, I heard somebody else say it's not about you sometimes. And most of the time it's not about you. It's about the product. It's about the picture. But it is, it's fun when it really works, and when you really start to get on, because then after a while they just say, oh, you know what I want, you do, and then after a while it gets to the point where you just do it, and eventually they'll maybe make a suggestion or a correction or and then the great part is when you do something and you both at the same time go yes or no, that's not right. But you both know it at the same time, and that's fun. But it definitely it's a challenge, and you want to work with them, obviously, and you want to also kind of make what you are definitely the bridge between what's going on in the band, in with the music and with the choreographer, and trying to make all of that work. And sometimes you got to talk to them and say, well, we really have, the music's doing the hit for them on the anticipation of the no, that kind of thing. You gotta learn to talk their language. You got to learn it's 5, 6, 7, 8, not 1, 2, 3, 4 or thereafter. And the push of this and that, you gotta learn their language. And sometimes even they are, different. They have little different things. And there's some that will go over it all the time. Some that rely on you for the tempo. Some, you got to just follow their tempo, at least in the rehearsal section of it. You hope that there's the conductor around there. Because sometimes, as you know, you're working with dance arrangers, not necessarily the conductor. And, so they're doing a whole nother thing. And sometimes you got to bridge a gap there, because you got to hope that the conductor sometimes can step in and be the traffic cop for all of this and say, oh, no, we need this here or there. Conversely, I mean, I've gotten some jobs through the choreographers, one that comes to mind. I mean, with Sergio, I got Guys and Dolls. He's the one who wanted me to be on that show. 2009, I guess it's a while back. But that was when we were doing some of the All Shook Ups and some other things. And he had me come in and playing all his dance auditions for that. And, and so, and that's happened a couple of times here and there. It's just been, and I know I'm not the only one in that case. I know other drummers who have a good working relationship with different choreographers. There's many choreographers out there as there are drummers, and if you can, get a good working relationship with some, it's a fantastic thing. Same with conductors, drummers. There are conductors that have their own drummers that they like, and a lot of drummers. That's how I got a lot of my work early in my tours and stuff. The conductors would say, I want this guy on it. It wasn't necessarily a contractor thing. I got to meet Michael Keller that way. A conductor brought me on a show, and then met him, and then he ended up putting me on some of those other things. Sweet Smell of Success being one of them. That was a fun show to play, meeting Marvin Hamlish and doing stuff with him, because he's a genius. God rest his soul. He was terrific.
So I don't know what year things started to change or when they started to change, but you had an Elvis musical in 2005. I know there was Lennon and even Sergio with what's the Jersey Boys.
Oh yeah.
Of course I did the Temptation show, and there's Tina out now, and there's Gloria Estefan, and all kinds of biopic
jukebox musicals.
What's that?
Don't they call them jukebox musicals?
Yeah, jukebox musicals.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if Ring of Fire was one of those. Did I hit the nuclear button?
Oh man, that was a funny show. I was hired as an understudy on that. Okay, as was August. August was the understudy conductor on that. So, this show. Oh my God. Okay, I'll try to pull this together. It was comprised of I forget how many. The band was on stage, but it interacted with the actors, or a couple actors. Nobody had a character name. Like the drummer's name was Ron Krasinski. They brought a bunch of players up from Nashville, because apparently nobody can play two beat in New York City. So in the program, I was understudy to Ron. Ron Krasinski was Ron, whatever. It was just kind of funky. So August, he was the understudy. We had 11 understudies for 14 people on stage. It was a little crazy. We don't have enough time for this one. This is a show that they did out of town in Buffalo, and in the middle of winter, and apparently it went well, and so they came right into the city. I joined when it came here. They didn't have the understudies in Buffalo. I joined when it came here, and what worked in Buffalo didn't necessarily work in New York City.
So before you go on, I'm looking at the playbill here.
Uh-oh.
Jeb Brown, Jason Edwards, Jared Emick, a bunch of different other people. Steve Bartosik. August, this is the cast list here.
Yes.
and August Erickson. That's fascinating. So you were part of the cast.
Well, yeah, it was actually it was actually under an AGVA contract or whatever that is. Excuse me. Although they paid all their benefits and pension whatnot to the musicians union, so we got that. Yeah, it wasn't one of the highlights because we also had to. If you're part of the cast, you are subject to understudy rehearsals twice a week. So, so we didn't. It was not the most fun one, and it wasn't the best show either. It just didn't have it. The Johnny Cash music was great, but it had no story. At least not that I could discern. It didn't have any characters. So you were sort of following Johnny Cash. It's been a huge hit since they've licensed it and sent it out across the country, because I guess they've changed a few things along the way. But and I don't know if the band still is big. I've never seen it after this, but it's been huge outside of New York City. It just didn't fly here. It was a little hard to figure out. Got some great stories about this too, but I don't know if we can.
Yeah, we're gonna go into overtime if we...
yeah, exactly. and it involves a choreographer, but I didn't have to create this one, so it didn't matter. We'll talk another day.
Do you see many shows that you perform in, like from the audience? You take a day off and see the show?
I don't think I ever have.
Wow.
I've come in early, like I've seen Bright Star. I remember I was doing something else and had to miss or come from somewhere, so I would sit out and maybe watch an act or something like that. But no, yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm not a big, and I tell people that right off the bat. When I get a sub, I try to keep them fresh, but I like the Broadway money. I like the Broadway, and I don't. When I'm doing a show, I kind of jump in with both feet, and I don't do a whole lot of other things just to do them, because I guess I don't get bored with it, and that's a blessing or a curse. I'm not quite sure which, but I don't get bored doing the same thing over and over. I find it a challenge.
So Ring of Fire got doused, and then
thank God.
Somebody had a fire extinguisher.
That was the other thing. We couldn't even leave as understudies. We couldn't leave until the bow music started. Oh, wow. Oh my God! It was like, this is torture. Yeah, that was rough.
So you were playing, or were you playing in the show, or you were actual?
Totally understudy. I did nothing. You had to be there. You had to sign in, be there at half hour, sign in, and sit up in the room until somebody got sick. And I literally gave the drummer a ginormous bottle of vitamin C on the first day and said, "Don't get sick." Yeah. That's you're an actor there. You're not.
So you didn't play drums at all in that?
You would, yes, because there were times where the band was all on stage, but they also got up and interacted with the cast, and you had a line or two along the way. You had to do little things. It was, your function, yes, your main function was to play drums. Your main function was to do that. But occasionally, like the finale of Act One, you got up off the kit and you put a guitar around your neck and you sang "I've Been Everywhere, Man."
Wait, you were the,
yeah, wait. That's exactly.
You were the drummer of the show, but also an understudy.
No. I'm sorry. Ron was the drummer of the show. I was under Ron Krasinski in that program. I understood. That's what I'm saying. This is so confusing. But yes, I understudied him, which meant, he's the drummer. So if he goes out, I'll sit down and play drums if he gets sick. Oh yeah, you got the look of, that's how the audience looked. Let me tell you.
Oh wow.
This was almost like, the movie of The Producers after the opening number, where people in the audience were yeah, it was very confusing. We can move on, I swear.
Yes,
there are many other shows to talk about.
Yeah, let's take a fire extinguisher to Ring of Fire. Move on to Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, That was cool.
So tell me about, how'd you get that gig?
Well, I think that's the one um, I mean, that was a Michael Keller thing, and but that was, I mean, Sergio, I had been doing a lot for him originally, and uh, but I guess that was a combination. I can't remember. We were on stage there again. Another short-lived one, unfortunately. Got a lot of rehearsals. Played a lot of auditions, played a lot of rehearsals, a lot of dance things, but show itself didn't run. That was wild, because we were on stage in a 3-tier thing: rhythm section on the first floor, brass on the second floor, and strings 25 feet in the air. Had to walk up spiral staircases on each side.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they brought in this giant LED screen that literally went right behind the conductor, and so he's like this far away from the fans that are cooling the LED screen. I'm sure I'm sure there was a health issue there somewhere.
So you talked about. Well, I just want to say one other thing about Sergio.
Sure.
When and he's done so many different things, and one of the things that
he's amazing,
very well known for was Jersey Boys and the choreography in that show, and other shows that he's done. And I worked with him on Memphis the Musical, and he didn't win any best choreography awards until, and I told him this when we were in LA. I said, you're going to win the Tony Award this year for this show. I got to tell you, I don't think he should have won for this show, because I mean, I loved what he did, and the choreography was great, but stuff that I've seen him do before, it's like, sometimes people get overlooked, but at the, when it's time in their time or wherever somebody feels like giving them an award, he gets it. But I was like, you're going to get your Tony Award for this show. And he's like, whatever. I've been nominated a million times. And then he finally won, and he was so excited. I was on the stage of Radio City Music Hall, and it was like 5 minutes to 8 o'clock on the Tony Awards in 2019. And I just remember being on stage and hearing, and the best winner, best choreography goes to Sergio, and hear him cheer, and he was so happy. I was very, very happy for him. But being on stage at Radio City is going to be the transition from dance. That's a pretty bad segue here, but
it's all right.
You have done a lot of stuff for Radio City,
Mm-hmm.
For the Rockettes and the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. How long have you been doing that, and how did you get involved in Radio City?
I guess the first thing was a workshop of one of the new songs, one of the new numbers in the show, somewhere 99, 2000. It was a long time ago. I mean, it was somewhere in there. Mark Hummel, Mark, by any chance?
Nope.
Piano player, dance arranger. What was he? He was the Newsies was his. He was the conductor on Newsies. He's done a lot. He's done a million things too. He's been the dance ranger on a lot of things. Great. He's a terrific dance ranger. Anyway, he's the kind of one who got me started in it, because we were doing other things. And I don't know, started out by just doing a little bit, working on the workshop of some new musicals, new numbers in the show, because they have to try them out first and get approval, that kind of business. So that led to being, they used to have out of town companies of the show, smaller renditions of it. Instead of 36 Rockettes in the line, they would have 18. It was essentially the New York show, but they have a whole stable of numbers that they can kind of mix and match, that kind of business. But we would go out of town and rehearse in a later other places. They finally settled into this abandoned or unused, not abandoned, unused outlet mall in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Fantastic. They literally set up dance floors and mirrors in famous footwear and I don't know, whatever. I mean, literally, you're in the mall. You still have, you know, the kiosks in the center of it. Nobody's there anymore. You got the food court, you know, and in these different shops, they would rehearse up to 4 different companies at the same time in this mall, because they used to send them out everywhere. Anyway, that's where I got started doing those rehearsals. It's piano and drums for rehearsal. Then but no live band for the show. That's another story for another day. And I had nothing to do with that. But anyway, then it was 2007. This huge, they were going to replace an hour's worth of the 90-minute show in one fell swoop. And Mark Hummel was doing all the musical arrangements for it. And he pulled me in to be the drummer of that. And so I got to work with him and help create drum parts for about an hour of the show. But we started in February and 2 to 3 weeks a month, February, March, April, all through until finally rehearsal started like the day after Labor Day in September. It was a lot of work. There's a lot of replacement, and it's a big, you know, corporate machine. It takes a long time there's a lot of moving parts. That's the word I wanted. A lot of moving parts between the set designers and you know, works on the stage and with the music, and everything's on a time code so that everything pieces together very nicely and works together. So that was my the choreographer director at the time was a woman named Linda Haberman, and she taught me a whole lot about drumming and working with dancers. Just, you know, what works for them and what they need, and they are very specific about I want a wood block for this, I want a triangle for that, I need a you know, mark tree, da. So we also were working with V drums then out of town at the time, and you could put all your different sounds right at your fingertips. All you had to do was program it. And then they moved the V drums into the hall, I think in 2006. But at any rate, so that was that for, I started subbing for Tom Oldakowski, who was the drummer there. Did some, you know, when sometimes I would sub, sometimes it depends on the year, if I had a show or didn't have a show, kind of thing. And you know, I keep saying this, but one thing led to the next, and here we are. I mean, there's no direct path, I guess. But now I end up playing all the Rockette and dancer ensemble dancer auditions. That starts in April, and if there is new workshops, I've been working with those for the new numbers that go in, helping. David Chase does a lot of the dance arrangements now, and you know, and he's terrific. He knows, he's been working there a long time, dude. He's got numbers in that show from way back, and anyway, here I get lost again in this train. Yeah, help me out here.
Tom Oldakowski was the drummer for Radio City for quite some time, I guess.
Yes, the orchestra drummer. Yes, it's a little different. They had a bit of separation of church and state, where the drummers that were doing rehearsal were not in the orchestra. Tom was in the orchestra. And so but Tom also, he had some other things going on. I think he's a lawyer. He did manage to, he's got a law degree, and he's a very successful lawyer. So I know it had something to do with the Radio City Orchestra used to be like pretty much full time. They did Easter shows, they did a lot of other things, and then they cut out the Easter show, and they only had the Christmas show. So I think he went and did some other things. So I don't know, since I've been involved there, excuse me, Tom hasn't done the rehearsals. A lot of other people have played the cast rehearsals for that. But that's fun. I got to tell you real quick. I love those rehearsals because there is no guesswork whatsoever about how long you're going to be sitting there at the drums and what's going on. They literally start the rehearsal to the second at 10 o'clock. They have clocks that are synchronized in all the rooms with the second, 58, 59, 10 o'clock, or whatever time, it's usually 10. Stage manager says, we're, here we go, or we're, that's it, 10 o'clock. And you work for the next hour and 20 minutes to the second. It doesn't matter if they're in the middle of saying something, if they're in the middle of a dance number, they don't care. Not that they don't care, it doesn't matter. To the second, stage manager stands up and says, break. Everybody stops. 10 minutes later, to the second, the break is over. Stage manager says, break's over, and we go right back to work for another hour and 20, and then take lunch. It's phenomenal. You can plan everything. You can tell somebody, I can call you at, I can call you at, one at 12:51. I know I can talk to you right there. That kind of thing. It's great.
So it was you and Joe splitting the drum chair.
Correct.
So you both have to audition every year for that?
This year we had to. I'm sorry, 2021. Yes. The first time I auditioned when Tom decided to leave was 2016, and I believe it was 2016. And Michael Kreuter and I both had the chair, and then somehow a clause in the contract was exercised, and for the next 4 or 5 years, it went a year at a time. It wasn't, we found this out, whatever. It was a year at a time thing. They had to make the decision every year. That's what I'm trying to say. Bass, guitar, and drums did not, they kept the rhythm section together. The show was essentially the same. So they didn't see a big reason to, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know the reason. I was definitely one of the beneficiaries of the reason why they kept us, and we didn't have to audition for a few years. Then COVID, so 2021, they had everybody audition again. I mean, everybody, every single Rockette, everybody that had been involved, with the exception of the director's show, everybody had to, and I get it. I mean, who knows what, some people stayed in shape, some people didn't. Plain and simple. In more ways than one, they stayed in shape or not, so I totally get that. And, but yes, so, and then last year, I know Mike did not, he chose not to audition last year. So, I was fortunate to get it back. And so this time it was Joe and I, and we don't know what the future brings yet. But you can go online, you can go on their website and you can still find the audition pieces there if you care to do that. And I think the clicks are still on there and everything that you need to audition. It's two segments from the show. Two what's the word I want? Come on, selections. Two selections of two numbers are what the drum audition involved. But it's all about playing to the click. I mean, that's really what it's all about. That's what they want to hear you do, and it's blind. The adjudicants are behind a screen, a wall, and there's a sound guy in there, and he'll help you out and get you set up, get your levels together, and then he hits a button, 1, 2, 3, 4, off you go.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Takes years off your life, let me tell you. And I don't have many to give.
So how long are the pieces that you have to play?
Not long. 2 pieces. I had a kid here yesterday that was interested in that. And we went over it. It's not very long. It's all about having a bit of a knowledge of V drums, because you gotta be able to essentially turn the machine on and know where to find the different, because you have to change kits, not during the number, but we change kits we have them all in a chain, but we use like 15 different kits throughout the course, mainly because we have auxiliary pads. You have your basic drum kit, but then the auxiliary pads, and those instruments change from number to number. And sometimes we need suspended cymbals and more triangles and wood blocks and da 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 da. We have a little different sounding drum kit for the finale because it's a little more rock thing instead of a jazz thing. Of course, we have a different sounding kit for the traditional wooden soldiers. We want a different sounding snare drum for that than we use for some of the other stuff. So anyway, we are changing kits constantly throughout the show.
Stuff I never even knew about. Now this is a whole new thing for me. I've known about how to do a Broadway thing, but playing something like that, it's an hour and a half that you're playing, and you're playing.
It's definitely under 90 minutes. Yeah, I forget the exact, somewhere around 85 minutes or something. But it's pretty intense. I mean, there's no turning back. It keeps coming at you. And like you just did the thing. You get that click going for speed up, slow downs, da da da. One number after the other. 3 doesn't matter. 5/8 bars, whatever. It's and the guy talking to you. One. However, you can adjust him. You can turn down his voice.
I didn't know that.
We have individual where you can turn the click way up and the voice way down if you want. But it's nice to have a little voice in there, just in case you. Where was I? After doing your 75th show in 3 days or whatever it is. It's not quite that many. We're capped at 16 for the week, so
you can only do 16.
Which is only, yes, but if you want a day, if you want a day off, that means you're doing 16 in 6 days. If you want to get a day off out of the deal. So
there are 2 drummers, and you can have subs for yourself. Or do you call the other drummer first?
We work it out between the 2 of us. If something comes up, we see if we want to switch a show with each other along the way, and we stay in pretty much constant contact as far as keeping what subs fresh and that sort of deal, and even constant contact almost daily to make sure, you're coming into this time, right? I've got this show, you've got that show, because there's pretty much no such thing as 1 going up late, and 2 can't go up without a drummer. Can't go up with almost anybody. But it has, and the band, the cart will come down and get you if you miss. But that's a whole nother thing.
So when it comes to Radio City, somebody like myself who's never played the show before, if I just come in and for some reason nail the audition, they're like, Clayton Craddock, you got the gig. It's like, do they necessarily want somebody as green as me to be the half the drummer for something of this magnitude?
Hey, listen, to my knowledge, if you killed the audition, you got it. You're it. Yeah, it would take some, there'd be a learning curve after that, but Joe did it this year,
But he was a sub there from time to time, right?
He played he almost played the revival of the spring show, but then unfortunately they pulled the plug on that.
I remember that. He told me about that.
Yeah. So, but he got a hold of, he got a hold of, we got him a book, and we got him, some recordings of the clicks and stuff. There was going to be some new things because there's always a little bit new every year, but he got a hold of the show prior, and Joe's he's a great sub. I mean, he subs everywhere.
Yes, he does.
He adapts to this stuff very quickly, and he sheds like crazy. So he knows the drill, and so he came in pretty much ready to go. So much, I give so much credit to him for that. It was pretty darn amazing. I couldn't do that. I can't learn things that fast.
First date.
Yes. A lot of fun.
Really?
Yeah, that was great fun. That was a V-drum show too, but that's because we were on stage right behind a curtain. So, but go ahead.
playing V drums as opposed to playing real drums, there's obviously a different way of playing them. I had to use them when I was at a show called Altar Boys in 2005. And I
Mhm.
learned a lot about how to program them, but your experience with them as opposed to playing um, acoustic drums, do you prefer one of the other? I'm assuming you prefer acoustic drums.
It's the right tool for the right job. You know,
Hmm.
they're both weapons in the quiver or whatever. I think you should have a knowledge how to do them both, because they're, whether it's V drums or some other model, some other version, because First Date, for example, it wouldn't have worked with acoustic drums. The way we were set up, literally right behind the curtain, you would have heard all of this spilling out into the stage. They would have, maybe they would have put up plexiglass or something like that. But for some, we would be shown every now and then. They lift the curtain, they see us there, they drop it back down. Now, one of the things from a couple of shows, and this was Eric August was the orchestrator on that. And we learned this during when he was an orchestrator. Was he at Fat Camp or where? I can't remember. That one I can't remember. But what we learned was the important sound is out in the house. The important sound's not so much what you're hearing with you. And it's nice to have it really well. But what we were finding out, with V drums, there's so much you can do with them. There's so many effects you can put on them, and the reverb and blah, 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 and this and that. And I mean, there's a million different things. But we found if you put that on back here and then run it through the sound, and then try to put on like reverb out there or something, it doesn't work. The gist of this is we put out a totally flat, clean sound out to the house. And especially Radio City, when they got a gazillion-dollar sound system, they can mess with it and make it sound good. But that's what we did with First Date too. And if you got a guy like August who really knows what he's listening for, he can say, "Oh, take roll the blah 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 of the treble dB, roll it back." Listen to me, I don't know squat. I know how to do it in the box, but he would tell me exactly, roll this off by this much, or add this much at this frequency, put this, put some of these highs back to this drum. So I go do that there, and then they could work with it out there and add all of their other reverbs and blah blah blahs and echoes and everything else out there. And it sounded terrific out in the house. Funny thing is, in the back, so the guitars were going direct. They had fractals or whatever they're called, and the keyboards were going direct. Bass players going direct. But we had, for a couple of numbers, we had a live saxophone, like a Barry sax for some like the low things. So you'd hear everybody, you'd hear all the backstage tapping, everything like this, but you're boom, gong. So you hear one live saxophone playing. If you took your headphones off, that's what you heard. You put your headphones on, it's rocking out and everybody sounds great. It was just kind of funny. But First Date was a lot of fun. That was another one of those. The band got along great. The music was fun to play. We were in ridiculously cramped conditions at the Long Acre Theater. Backstage, there was just no room. And everybody had a great time. And so naturally, we couldn't run long.
That sucks, man.
Yeah, we started, I forget what that was. I think we started in August.
Yeah, August 8th, 2013.
Yeah, did we make it to New Year's, January or something? I think it was only a handful. I don't think we made it past it. They said they weren't going to shut us down at Christmas. Was that the one? No, wait a minute. There was some other show I was on that they said they wouldn't shut us down at Christmas, and they bit the bullet for 2 weeks or something. Oh, it was another August show. It was an off-Broadway thing called Walmartopia. It's probably not on your list there. I got a few good off-Broadway ones that were fun. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking to see how long it ran. Week ending January 5th? It didn't end January 5th, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, really?
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's
it. Yeah, yes, exactly.
That's too
I had
bad.
a lot of those. Oh, I think my longest Broadway show was 9 months. And that was the second La Mancha. That was it. Everything else was shorter.
Bright Star too.
Bright Star was, yeah, we closed shortly after the Tonys, after we didn't get anything. Yeah, that was the year of Hamilton. Yeah, but I did out of town. We did DC with them first.
That was Steve Martin and Edie Brickell. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were great. They were a lot of fun. He's a Grammy award-winning banjo player for a reason. And he would play with us every now and then. He'd go out there and play the entr'acte. It was great. Until the audience got the word that, hey, every now and then Steve Martin comes out. So they'd bring the curtain up, and when Steve Martin was there, the place would go nuts. And the days when the curtain came up and Steve Martin wasn't there, everybody go, oh. It's like, oh, come on, these guys are out there playing their hearts out for you. But yeah, first date was great. We had a great time in rehearsals and great time playing the show. A lot of fun. Good time making the CD was a lot of fun. Oh, no, that was the Bright Star. Do you remember there's a drummer, Russ Kunkel?
Yes. James Taylor.
Yeah. Well, his son was the audio engineer for the Bright Star album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, our music supervisor was Peter Asher from Peter and back in the 50s. Oh, this is horrible. With a thing without love. I can't live in a world without love. Peter and David from the 50s. Anyway, and he was also Peter Asher was Linda Ronstadt's producer for a gazillion years. So he was the producer of our CD. So he knew a little bit about stuff. He was good. Anyway,
Peter and Gordon.
Thank you. Thanks for looking that up. Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, you Google them and you will recognize some of the old songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So somebody wants to move to New York and play Broadway musicals Off-Broadway, audition for Radio City. What would be the first thing that you tell them? This is what you need to do.
Oh. Did you get a return ticket? No, I don't know. Knock on the doors. Just, make yourself known. Don't be a pain in the butt, but, be respectful and, see if you can, and people take things differently too. Depends, but yeah, knock on some doors. Be nice to, say you just want to come and listen if that's possible. I don't care. I'm not looking to sub. I'm looking, you try to hear as much as you can and see what other people do. And, try to learn something from everybody, take a little bit away from of everybody. You sound like you, or at least I can't make myself sound like this person, but I can certainly get some ideas. Oh, that's how he does that. Oh, I never realized that before. Oh, I like the way he set this up. I never thought about doing it that way, or something of that sort. There's always something you can learn somewhere from somebody, and try. I've heard on some of your other podcasts. You never know where your next job is going to come from, and it is hard. It's a catch-22. You need work to get work, kind of thing. But I know I used to do I got into doing these cabaret shows. Whatever they were, Don't Tell Mamas or McGraw's or whatever they were, and do some really lame acts. But you'd get a piano player, something that would one of his students, that he would be a vocal coach of, would want to do an act. They can pay you a quarter and a cup of coffee, and okay, I'll do this. Well, I was doing a few with that. Well, the next thing you know, this piano player, he gets a Broadway show, and he goes, I think I get one day. I remember calling up. He goes, I have an act here. I think you're really going to want to play this one. And it was Patti LuPone on Broadway. All of a sudden he got tabbed to do that. So yeah, don't try not to turn anything down. Maybe know your weaknesses, know your strengths, and try to take advantage of both, or work on your weaknesses, but don't take a job you're not ready for either. I mean, I would never take a job as a percussionist, a mallet player. Give me whole notes on the chimes at quarter note of 60. We might have
then I might be able to do it.
But other than that, no. I'm not your person. But I don't know. It certainly, I hate to hesitate and stammer, but it's certainly a lot difficult in this situation right now today.
Do you have a favorite musical that you played over the years?
A couple. The old cliche, the one I'm currently playing is usually the answer. But there were some that were better than others. I got good things to say about pretty much everyone except our buddy Ring of Fire. But I got a lot of funny stories out of that for another day. But First Day was fun. All Shook Up was fantastic. Peter Pan was great. It was a cartoon show, but boy, no matter how you felt with Peter Pan, even on the road, whatever, when that curtain went up, or when Peter Pan flew through the window and those kids out there just started screaming with just utter delight that Peter Pan is showing up, it's like, oh man, how can you feel bad about what's going on? All right, let's go play. It's fun now, So yeah, there are a lot of Dreamgirls is great. I love playing. I did a short tour of Dreamgirls, maybe about a year or something like that. That's fun, man. Did you ever play that show?
Nope.
First 20 minutes, it's one. You don't stop, and the drum, it's 16th notes in the hi-hat. That's connecting song to song, so you never stop. That's so much fun. Man, it's all about me now. It is about me. It's just hi-hat. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah. So
what are some of the things that you would say a drummer should never do in a Broadway pit?
Be careful about zoning out. Try to stay in the moment. It's not that long. It can be if you're playing the same thing over and over again. You might have some, but boy, try to, and try not to get on automatic pilot, because next thing you know, something happens and you have no idea where you are. That can happen in an instant. But I'd say, yeah, try to just keep your wits about you. Try to let the conductor know you're with it, you're there. So, because you never know what he's gonna see up there, especially if you can't see the stage. You know what he's gonna see, and he might have to get your attention quickly to change something if something's going on. So yeah, try to keep your wits about you. Don't leave the pit before the show's over or intermission. Mentally. Unless, of course, it's really a good idea if you get out of the pit. But for the most part, stay there, stay focused.
Earlier in our conversation, you said something that piqued my interest. You, I guess, had started out by memorizing a lot of music for shows, I suppose, like when you were younger. Did people make you memorize? I can't remember if you said that your band director or somebody would make you memorize things.
That was just high school, a jazz band.
Okay.
That's all that was. Not a whole musical. I don't think I ever. I have. You know what? No, that's not true. I Peter Pan I did so many times I played that by memory. But
so speaking of that,
I'm sorry. No, it wasn't Peter Pan. It was Evita way back, because I did that for 2.5 years, and that one I did by memory. But that was a different kind of show. But I I can't remember. First of all, I can't memorize anything right now, but I can't. I mean, even Radio City, there's so many dance hits. There's so many things there to play. I can't get my eyes off the music because I know that's when I'm going to screw it up as soon as I stop looking at it.
So did you always, other than Evita, did you always have music up there to look at? And do you always look at the music and move the pages every song?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty. I might not be always staring at the music, but I always have the right page up there. You know, I might be looking at the conductor a whole lot more, and depends on the show and how often you're doing it, obviously. But I have the right page up there. God forbid something, you know, happens to you or leaving, you know, something, and I'd like to be in the right spot at the right time. But going way back, that was just our high school band director making us do that, just to impress the crowds, you know, so that's how we won competitions, because they went, oh, look at these guys. Anyway, but I'm not a big I'm too damn afraid anymore to take my eyes off the music. It's plain and simple. I'll go thinking about, you know, stuff I have to do in the house, you know. Oh yeah, I got to mow the lawn today.
Sometimes you can get into a longer running production.
Oh, what are those? Tell me
I was
what
about to say, you've done a whole bunch of tours, but yeah, your shows unfortunately haven't lasted more than 9 months, which is, man.
No, the tours lasted long, but the Broadway things, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress.
But yeah, you can definitely start thinking, it's like, yeah, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? And then all of a sudden you see the conductor's hand come down, and you better be right on it, and you can't zone out. So it's important to stay focused. Even like you said, it's not that long. It's under 3 hours that you have to be focused. But even in those 3 hours, you know, the 90 minutes that you have to perform the first act, it's a lot of mental energy. And I started realizing that doing the sister act thing, you know, being out of, you know, show practice for a couple months and then having to go back into that mindset, you have to focus. And it takes a lot of mental energy to read music and play drums and then watch a conductor. It's a lot of work. And people are like, oh, you only play for, you know, an hour and a half, and you guys got a part-time job, 24 hours a week.
Oh, I hate that, son. I hate when people say that.
Okay, then you go ahead and have a seat. Have a seat. I'll drive your tractor, and you sit here in this thing, and you try to do what I do. I'm not saying that driving a tractor is easy, right, or cleaning a hotel room or whatever, but, you know, took us a lot of years to get to this point, and we're good at what we do. That's why we're hired, and that's why you sit in the audience and you laugh and you dance and you clap, you stomp your feet or whatever, because everything that we're doing, we had to learn over many, many decades in order for just all to come together. And in that 3 hours, you're thoroughly entertained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, it
takes a lot of hard work to make it look easy.
Great quote.
Wow, man. Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know where that came from, but yeah,
paid for that, man.
but it's true, and it's like in that whole part-time thing, like Radio City. It's you know, an hour and a half show. Yeah, but it's not the hour and a half, because, you know, you gotta, first of all, you know, it's all I gotta be there, and we gotta be on the band cart. I gotta be dressed. I gotta be on the band cart this time. You know, what's the time? Well, I mean, for me, coming from New Jersey or whatever, all right, I got to leave plenty early just to be sure, because anything can happen there. I might be here, I might be in town in 35 minutes, and it could be 2 hours and 35 minutes if there's a big screw up on the bridge or the tunnel or something, you know. Well, for instance, one day going to do the show, you're getting on my bus, all of a sudden the buses are they're showing up, but they're not going anywhere. And then a person comes out and said, somebody just let off a bomb underneath in the tunnels underneath the Port Authority. It was the guy when the bomb went off in his pants or something. It was a few years ago. Yeah, it didn't detonate quite the way, but nonetheless, they shut down Port Authority. And like everything else, the buses just stopped going in. So, you know, I got in my car, and then you couldn't even get near the tunnel because everything was so, you know, it's just, you never know when a day like that's going to happen. And of course, I think this was also early on where we didn't really have subs going yet. And at this point, all the drummers were living out of town. Mike's in Connecticut and I'm in New Jersey, and it's like, uh-oh. And Ron had played the show, so I kind of got him, but he couldn't even take a subway. He was living, way uptown, so he couldn't get on a subway to go downtown because they weren't having the subway. It was just, one of those nasty days. It's a few years ago already. But in this day and age, those nasty days can happen in no time. So my point is, so I'm leaving plenty, hours early. So my 90-minute show, I'm probably putting in 5 hours of commuting just in case. I'm leaving so much. I'd just rather be in town. I'll find something to do. Fortunately, Radio City has a sleeping lounge and a cafeteria and everything else there. So, you can go and you get in there and go to sleep, whatever. But that hour and a half show takes a lot more. It's a lot more mental concentration than just doing the show. There's a lot more that goes with it. So, yeah, I don't like it when people say, part-time job. No.
Yeah, now that I'm talking to a lot of musicians, a lot of drummers that have done this and getting different perspectives from them, I have a much better appreciation for what I do being a drummer for Broadway. I mean, just hearing Warren Oates and Ray Marchica and yourself and Joe and people, great subs like Joe Horashevsky or Joe Nero, and then talking to new people that have gotten in here. And it's just a fascinating world, but it's something that is not easy to get a job. And then when you do get a job like yourself, you don't really necessarily have a long-term gig. Then you got to think about what you're going to do next. It's fascinating to me. That's why I love talking to people about and hearing their stories. Mm-hmm. But, being one last thing, I know that I need to go and you probably need to go too, because we can have busy lives.
You got a show to do, man. You got to put your and you need the next month to edit this place. To edit this thing that you just did.
Having a show like Radio City or any Broadway show, and you need a sub, if you're coming from out of town and you need a sub, it's better to have someone that lives in the city. Say, could you come down from Harlem and play Radio City, or come down or go up from Chelsea and play Ain't Too Proud? But it's harder nowadays to get somebody that's good and that has the experience to actually be that sub, who actually can live and afford to live in New York City. So it's most of the subs that I know, most of the people that I know that do this now are living outside of New York City. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, we got the last couple of years, we've gotten Adam Wolf involved, and he's somewhere in Manhattan. I can't remember. He's upper Manhattan somewhere, but we've gotten him into the mix to because of that. Because everybody, even Joe, I mean, Joe's fantastic, but he lives down near Trenton. He's got on a good day, we can get in there faster than people living in Upper Manhattan. But on a bad day, oh boy, it could be,
Thank you, Steve, for being a part of this podcast. It's great talking to you.
You're the same, man. It's been great. I think, like I said, I think the last time I saw you, we were both doing dance break stuff. It was, you remember that, choreographer?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I think I saw you and Paul Pizzuti there too.
Paul Pizzuti was there. That's right.
Yes. Wow.
Yes. I look at wow is right. It was a long time ago. But it's great. You're looking good, my friend. And I think you're doing a great job with these things. I really do. So I like what your friend said too about maybe expanding, going to guitars and bass players or something. That would be pretty cool.
Hopefully sometime I'll see you somewhere. All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, pal. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Broadway Drumming 101 YouTube channel. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell icon so that you'll be notified when a new video is released.